I'm your host, Matt Miller, and welcome to Season 2 of You're Still Doing That? If you love the podcast and want to see it continue, go to www.yourstilldoingthat.com and leave a tip. If you have a lifelong passion that you'd like to share, come on the show. Go to www.yourstilldoingthat.com and sign up to become a part of the podcast family. Check us out on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok for fun videos to see what's coming up next. On with the show. With me today is Mandy Theis. Mandy is an atelier-trained artist, licensed art educator, and director of the School of Atelier Arts. Mandy takes pride in helping people find their inner artist, especially when they feel they don't have one, which is exactly like me. During her 17-year art education career, she has become a trainer of art teachers and provide professional development for how to provide professional development on how to teach realism skills to thousands of art teachers in more than 20 states. She has given numerous keynote speeches at conferences. She's been featured in a number of magazines, and she's one of the first accredited atelier-based master's degree in studio art at the Florence Academy of Art. And I saw this for fun. You also like to give Shakespearean insults.
Yes.
And I saw that and I thought that was the greatest thing. So I immediately had to Google Shakespearean insults to see what I was dealing with here. And I got a couple to run by you.
Oh, lay them on me, please.
The first one I found says, "I am sick when I do look upon thee." I was like, that one's pretty good. I like that one.
Yeah,
and
as a creature of bombast would.
Yep. And this one is my favorite that I saw. You have a very February face, so full of frost, of storm, and cloudiness. I was like, that one's really good.
That. I love that. Yeah, I've been listening to this podcast called Chop Bard, and it's been delightful. I've been really into it and learning so many of these insults. So thank you for sharing.
Yeah, I kept thinking, I was like, Shakespearean insults. I'm going to have to remember a few to keep in my bag.
Indeed.
All right, Mandy. So let's start at the beginning. Where were you born and where did you grow up? Because sometimes those are two different places.
It's true. I'm a bit of a wanderer. I grew up mostly in Ohio. I was born in the Dayton area there, and then...
Hey, my daughter was just in Dayton, Ohio this weekend.
Oh, I hope she went to the art museum. It's still one of my favorites.
She did not. She has it's like marching band, but indoors on a basketball floor. Yes. Anyway, her group was competing at the WGI International World Championships in Dayton, Ohio.
Oh, well,
just this weekend.
As somebody from Dayton who was also in drumline, I appreciate.
Yeah. She was there in the Winds. Yeah, they did the newly started Winds program for WGI.
Oh, I was about to say, when I was doing it was just drums. Yeah.
Yep. They are expanding.
Excellent.
All right, so you were born in Dayton. What else?
So when I was in high school, I moved to the DC area. On a whim, I moved to Montana to go to college. And while there, I discovered atelier training, and I moved to Seattle to train in an atelier. For those of you who might not be familiar with this weird word that I keep using, atelier training is basically a word for realistic drawing and painting training. So a lot of people don't realize that like most art education today is a lot about like be experimental, do what you feel, like paint the aura of something, right? Like,
and try a lot of different medias too.
But it used to be until about 100 years ago that people were trained kind of at a really high technical level, not unlike a classical music conservatory or where everything that was already known about drawing and painting was taught, so that students could truly, move beyond, not reinvent the wheel, right? So I discovered that this training existed, and it's what I always wanted to do. And I didn't know it was possible. I thought that I just didn't like have it, right? Like there was like some magical it that some people got bopped on the head with, and I just didn't have it, and that I couldn't be an artist. And when I discovered that, oh, hey, the kind of art that I wanted to make, because I wanted to paint portraits. I wanted to paint like what I saw in the Dayton Art Institute when I was growing up, right? I wanted to paint, believably, and I wanted to paint realistically, and I wanted to
Yeah.
paint the people I knew and loved and make it look like them and have other people know that it was them
Right.
that I had painted. Right. And so I discovered that I could still do this, and it's called atelier training. And to me, it was like somebody told me I could like go to Hogwarts, right? Like that there's
Yeah.
this
Yeah.
magical
Special
place.
school. Yeah.
Yeah. And if you just study really hard for a number of years, you can learn to draw and paint like just what your heart desired, like at a really high technical level. I was sold. There was nothing going to keep me
Yeah.
from the atelier. Um, so it's not that I had stopped drawing and painting, it's that I had just not believed that I could do the kind of art that I really wanted to do.
Right.
And now all of a sudden I could. And I realized as I was doing it, my art teacher friends were like, "Hey, Mandy, what are you doing over there in Seattle, at this atelier thingy you keep talking about?"
Yeah.
And I realized that there were a lot of art teachers and a lot of people generally out there that would love to know these technical things, know how to draw and paint realistically. But
Right.
because it hadn't been taught for so long, nobody knew how. And even in art education, like the way I was trained was that if you taught students technical skills, it might ruin their creativity. Right. And this is the
Right.
philosophy. This is the overriding philosophy in art. And can you imagine if your math teacher was afraid to teach you how to add because it might ruin your creativity? Right.
Right.
Um, so, it just didn't make sense to me. And I realized that, okay, well, this was the, presiding, the overriding philosophy in art education, but I didn't believe that anymore. And
Yeah.
as I started talking to my fellow art teachers and I started presenting at their art teacher conferences and I started sharing what I had learned in the atelier, all of a sudden other art teachers were like, "Oh, do you think it might be okay if I teach my students skills?" Right? Like if I
Yeah.
teach
Yeah.
them these things that are already known about art. And so, I feel so proud to be part of this movement that is making it okay for people to learn how to draw and learn how to paint and
Right.
making it an okay thing to do.
Well, that's the greatest thing. I get so impressed when somebody sees something in front of them and then they draw exactly what it
Yeah.
is we just saw. And I was like, how in the world can you
Well,
draw that to make it look exactly like what we're just looking at? That's crazy,
here's the
especially
thing.
people.
Yeah, well, you can do that. Anybody can do that. These skills aren't magic skills. It's just that they were largely lost. They weren't taught for a long period of
Yeah.
time. And so the people that have them, they feel magical to us, right? Like they feel like,
Yeah.
whoa, what is this crazy magical thing that you have? Because they somehow managed to find that skill set that isn't widely available to everybody else. But it's
Yeah.
not that everybody else isn't capable of doing it. Like I can teach you how to draw and paint realistically and make a believable portrait. It's a skill that any normally functioning human being can learn and execute at a high level that has access to the knowledge. It's just that
Yeah.
if you go to art school, you're not going to learn it at most art schools. You need to find atelier training. That's ATELIER. That's the training. And that's why I started online classes with the School of Atelier Arts, which is the school that I run, is to make it more broadly accessible. Like anybody can sign up online and learn how to draw and paint realistically.
Right. Yeah. I mean, unless you just look out and get a teacher in middle
Mhm.
school or high school that has had those skills,
Sure.
you're basically going to learn a whole bunch of a lot of things. And then they're going to
Mhm.
say, okay, go create and explore and experiment.
Be creative. Yeah.
Right.
And it's not that I'm opposed to, exploration and creativity. I just feel that the most creative students are the ones that are able to create the artwork as they envision it in their head. And that
Yeah.
often means that they need skills in order to execute it without compromise.
Yeah. I definitely agree. I got asked as a public school music teacher, I've gotten asked to judge several art competitions where kids have
Mhm.
created art, and they bring all the special teachers in and say, okay, let's
Yes.
vote and see who's doing the best. And then
Mhm.
I was, it's not at the high school level. I was like, does that look like a real person? That's
Right.
who that's who I'm
Right.
voting for. It's like
Right.
that, right? The eyes look good, the mouth looks
Mhm.
good, the smile's good. I was
Yeah.
like, there you go. It looks like a
Yeah.
real person.
Right. Well, and coming from a music background, my mother was a music teacher, and actually, my first teaching job was in this rural school in Montana. And they were like, "By the way, Mandy, you're the music teacher too."
To
So,
right, art and music.
I've dabbled in
I
music
love it.
education, but in music education, it's okay to say, hey kid, here's a trumpet. Okay, here's the fingerings of the notes on the trumpet. Okay, here's how to read music. But the equivalent of those things is not okay to teach in art. There's a fear that it will
Right.
ruin the student creativity, and it doesn't
Right.
make any sense.
Well, I know they have to find what it is they like to do and then hone in on those certain particular set of skills
Mhm.
system and to
Right.
get
And
that training.
yeah, and a lot of students, they're not afraid of drawing when they're in first grade, second grade, third
Oh,
grade. But
they're not afraid of anything at that
no.
age level. No. They go, no.
Right. But what happens is that at somewhere around fourth grade, in my experience,
Mm-hmm.
students are
That's
trying to draw something realistically and they aren't able to do it. And their art teacher isn't able to help them do it because that's not a skill set that most art teachers have. Realistic drawing and painting is not a skill set
right.
that they learned at their colleges. And
Right.
then the student takes the responsibility on them and they feel that, oh, I just don't have it. Right. So,
Yeah.
any adult that's listening to this right now, it's not you. It's that you didn't have access to this particular skill set that you were looking for. And if you want it now, you can find it. You can have it. It's called atelier
Yeah.
training.
Nice. No, you're right on that. Thinking about art, I've seen, because I've been teaching elementary music for quite a long time now.
Mm-hmm.
And the art that comes out of the art room, we had a fabulous art teacher, but she retired this year. But Holly Brower was just art teacher, especially elementary art teachers are just spectacular
Oh,
people.
I
I
bow
have
down
not
to
met one.
elementary art teachers.
I have not met an elementary art teacher that was not amazing. They're just spectacular.
Absolutely.
And so creative.
Mm-hmm.
And so she was great with her students, but you're right in a little bit is the artwork the students created. It was like the people they would draw, they weren't people. They were like a cartoon character or they were a certain style, but there wasn't any like a regular person. It was always,
Yeah.
stuff
Right.
that was, goofy or silly. And I'm sure that was meant to keep kids interested, right? To
Well,
draw and
I
to do all kinds
also,
of things.
one type of training that has become more accessible, especially to kids today, is anime, right? So you'll see a
Yep.
lot of
That's
kids
huge. Yep.
drawing anime because guess what? There's instruction for how to do it, and they can have
You're right.
success learning from people that are actually
Yes.
teaching that particular skill set. What does not broadly exist, it's changing. The School of Atelier Arts puts out classes. There's other ateliers that put out classes. More and more you can find online. But this information, it just hasn't been largely accessible to paint realistically in a non-cartoony manner, right? But the
Right.
anime has been accessible for a longer period of time. So
Yeah. And there's they can watch instructional videos of that with their peers, people their own
Mhm.
age doing it.
Absolutely.
So Alexa, good. So you got to Montana,
Mm.
and did you go to college in Montana?
I did. That's where I got my art education degree, and I also got a degree in graphic design at Montana State. Go Bobcats! In
Montana
Bozeman,
State, the
Montana.
Bobcats. I love it.
Yeah. And, it was a really great time in my life. The West is a magical place. It's
I
not
bet so.
like other places. And, I told you a little bit about that first teaching job I had, but the thing that makes Montana so magical to me is there's less than 1 million people in the state, or at least there was when I was there. Maybe there's more now. It's a
All I'm hearing
huge
is
state.
small schools, small schools,
Yes, there
small
were less
schools.
than 100 kids in the K-12 school that I taught. I taught every
Oh,
grade.
that sounds like a dream. That sounds like a dream.
Well, it would be funny because you'd be teaching second grade and then you'd have high school and then you'd have like eighth
Mm,
grade and but it was great because you could actually see the developmental stages in a
yeah,
way that not many art teachers get to experience, all the way
right.
from 5 years old to 18 years old. And the crazy thing is after I taught there for a year or two, all of a sudden, like, I had taught them everything I knew, 18 years of learning, right?
Yeah,
And I had taught them all the technical skills that I knew. And I'm like, how is this possible? How could I have taught these young kids everything that I knew already? And that's when I started getting like desperate to learn more. I'm like, okay, I got to learn more skills. They've
right.
already learned everything that I knew. And that's how I eventually found atelier training. I found a book written by Julia Aristides that introduced me to atelier training. And then it all made sense. I was like, oh, there's so much more that I don't know.
Yeah.
And I need atelier training. And so then I moved to Seattle and I trained with Juliet Aristides for a number of years. And then I
Oh,
moved to
you went
New
right to the source.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, I
There
love
was
it.
nothing going to stop me from getting once,
Uh,
it was like being told I could be an astronaut again, right? Like I wanted it my whole
yeah,
life. And then at some point I just felt like I didn't have it, right? That I wouldn't be able to draw and paint ever the way that I wanted to. And then someone told me I could do that. It was like being like, do you want to go to the moon on this, space mission? Like whatever your
right.
childhood dream was. And there was nothing that was going to keep me from it, right? Like there was no way I was missing
Yeah,
this ship
I love
twice.
it.
Yeah.
I love
Um,
it.
mhm.
All
And
right.
yeah. So,
So we got out of college, Montana State, and
mhm,
you're in Seattle, and you're
mhm.
chasing
Yes.
Atelier
Yes.
with the writer of the book.
Mhm.
What was her name
Her
again?
name's Juliet Aristides, and she wrote. I mean, she has a lot of books out now. I think 4 or 5 books out. But the first book that I ever read of hers was Classical Drawing Atelier, and then Classical
Hmm.
Painting Atelier. And I strongly
Gotcha.
recommend anybody who's interested in learning more about realistic drawing and painting training to check out those books.
All right. So my next question was, but I guess would be besides her, who were some of the people that changed you as an artist?
Oh my goodness! I mean, there's the people that you knew that you liked before you started atelier training, and then you see them in a completely different way like once
Yeah.
you start atelier training. So I would say Velasquez is like my favorite painter right now. It has changed. It might change again in 4 years,
Right.
but he's not as famous as like the great Italian painters. He was a Spanish painter, but the way that he used color at a time where there weren't that many pigments and the pigments weren't that chromatic, and he just got the most out of them that of any
Yeah.
painter of that age. I just adore his work.
Well, like any great artist, he was probably breaking a few rules to get what he was getting. I think of musicians about how the rules of writing music, and then they said, "No, I'm going to do exactly what you told me not to do to create this piece of music."
Well, he was innovative, for
Yeah.
sure, but he did learn in an atelier for many years, to understand what was known already. He didn't waste time
Yeah.
reinventing the wheel or reinventing something that already existed. But because he gained that knowledge, when he started seeing motion in a different way, as far as we know, he's one of the first painters to show like a spinning wheel in motion without painting the wheel. He painted what a wheel looks like in motion, so it was like blurry. And
Right.
as far as we know, that's the first time in Western art that we have seen that. And that was highly original, highly inventive, because he cared very much about the impression of what he was seeing. He wasn't
Yeah.
trying to draw every little wrinkle. He wasn't like an obsessive drawer like Ong
Yeah.
or some of the other more obsessive painters. He cared about visual impression, and
Yeah.
because that was his desire and his love, when he came across something, he saw it in a way that people hadn't seen it before.
All right. I love that. Um, so when did you decide you were going to start your own school?
I knew that even from the first day I was in Atelier, that my mission was to help bring this knowledge back
Yeah.
into mainstream knowledge. We're in the
Yeah.
information age, and we as a culture know less about drawing and painting than we did 100 years ago. If you wanted to
That
be an
sounds right.
if you wanted to be
Yeah.
an engineer 100 years ago, you had to be a competent draftsperson, right? There's no
Yeah.
way you were going to build that bridge that you could not draw.
No.
So, so of all the ways that we've progressed and have access to more knowledge, we are the most visually ignorant we've ever been. And we're also exposed to the most images that we've ever been
Yes, we
exposed
are.
to. And so I knew even as I was learning these skills, I paid very careful attention to how I would teach them, both in a K-12 setting and also to other art teachers, to other adults. And I think something that makes my approach to atelier training very unique, even amongst the atelier world, is that I'm taking pedagogical theory, I'm taking good education theory, and I'm applying it to atelier training. And if you think about it, with music education, you know, uh, oh my goodness, the Suzuki method, right?
Yes.
There's been like a lot of information about how to teach something efficiently and well, but because these skills haven't been taught for the last 100 years, we don't have that same advancement
No.
in the pedagogy that other subjects have. And so
No, we sure don't.
really working to do is try to make atelier training more efficient, make it easier for people to learn, make it more understandable, break it down into smaller chunks than what are generally available in most ateliers, and improve the efficiency of the learning and teaching of these skills.
Yes, that's right. How long has your school existed? How long have you had it up and running?
So the School of Atelier Arts was founded in late 2018, so it's been around for a number of
For a
years
little
now.
bit now, yeah.
Yeah, but we provide a lot of lesson plans. We provide a lot of resources for learning, but we didn't start teaching online until about 6 months ago. So our online atelier is relatively new. Now, the School of
Gotcha.
Atelier Arts has partnered with the Florence Academy of Art to accredit a master's degree program.
Wow.
Again, that was with the intention of allowing art teachers with their degrees to acquire atelier training and get that master's degree designation that many teachers seek. So we got that program up and going, and the School of Atelier Arts was instrumental in getting that program accredited with the Florence Academy of Art, and now the Florence Academy of Art is taking that ball and running with it. So,
what a good idea to have teachers. They're doing extra work, so they know what they're teaching, but now to get the accreditation and the paperwork to go along with it.
Exactly.
That's really good.
Yeah, in the education world, that master's degree can make a difference for a lot of teachers. And as far as, it's a full atelier program. It's a studio-based program where they're learning atelier skills. It's summers only for, those people that, are teaching during the school year. And it's terrible because that third summer, you have to go to Florence, Italy and train at the most beautiful campus on the Florence Academy of Art.
Well, that's a big commitment if you got to go all the way to Florence.
Yes, just for the last year. The other 2 years, you can do either online or in person in the New York City area.
So is that included in their tuition, the flight to Florence and where to stay and all that good stuff?
Not, no, but the degree is included.
Nice.
But for those,
that's wonderful.
So now there's like lots of different options. So the School of Atelier Arts has a program that's open to anybody to learn these skills. You can sign up today, and it doesn't matter what your previous level experience is. I can help you learn how to draw and paint. And we give critiques 2 times a week. We have a lot of pre-recorded content, and you can go at your own pace and then come to the live critiques and get help from our atelier trained instructors. And then, if of course we have this other level through our partnership with the Florence Academy of Art, where if you want a master's degree, you can do that. So there's lots of opportunities. And if you're not sure if the master's degree is right for you, start with our online atelier and see if it's, the right thing for you.
Right. So where can people go to find your atelier school?
So at our website, the School of Atelier Arts, again, atelier is spelled ATELIER. We have online classes available there. Our main class is a monthly program. It's $500 a month. You show up, we critique you twice a week. We have content that you can follow along with. And most of our students finish their first project in the first month, but most students stay for many months because there's so much to learn in the atelier.
Right.
Yeah.
How long is a course when you sign up for it?
So all our students work at their own pace. So, we have some students that are working through a medical issue that might be working 15 minutes, a day. We have some students that really, really are like, this is what I'm doing for the next 6 months. And they're treating it like a full-time job, and they're producing, a project every few days. So, you can work at your own pace. But the great thing about the community is that you're not just learning on your own. You're learning from your peers. When I was teaching, I was really reluctant to teach atelier training online. That's why this school, our online course, we didn't launch it until just a few months ago. And it wasn't until COVID when I saw that when we were teaching online, that the students were actually learning more efficiently than in person. And it blew my mind. I'm like, how is this possible? We're painting.
It's less distraction. Yeah.
But, I really think it's because they were hearing everybody else's critiques. So instead of just getting a little bit of feedback, because when I'm in a classroom setting, I'm one-on-one critiquing each student, but they were hearing everybody's critique, and all of a sudden they stopped making mistakes that the other students were making, and they were progressing more quickly. So I'm actually a huge proponent of online training now. And I think that some of my online students actually are progressing more efficiently than my in-person students.
Yeah, online training is definitely here to stay. That's for sure.
Absolutely. And it's so accessible now. Like, you don't have to quit your teaching job and move across the country to get atelier training. You can have it. You can have it now. You can sign up right this minute and start atelier training and be working on your first project 5 minutes from now.
Yes. All right. So I got some fun questions for you.
Ooh.
So say a person has no artistic skills whatsoever, which would be me, but wants to start learning. Where should they start? What are some good home practices for that very, very, very beginner person?
Okay, so if you're a beginner person, you need beginner resources. So one thing that the School of Atelier Arts have developed is a full curriculum from kindergarten through 12th grade. So if you
All right.
feel like you're really, really like don't know
Starting at
anything,
kindergarten. Yep,
start
that
in
would be me.
kindergarten.
That would be
Yeah.
me. That's for sure.
But it's not because you're inherently bad at art. It's only that you haven't had access to this information before. You know,
Oh
people,
no.
if you wanted to start speaking Russian, you wouldn't be like, oh, I'm not fluent already. I must not be capable of it.
Right.
Right. And you would be starting by learning your letters and the sounds and the, just like a kindergartner might,
Yes. Yeah.
um, so, we have worksheets that are really popular with our community that take people from really beginning stages, and it helps them kind of practice some, basic drawing skills and some basic
Yeah.
color skills. And it's a great place to start if you feel like, I don't know, Mandy, I don't believe you. I don't think I can really draw and paint. You can. You absolutely can. It's just that you haven't had access to this information before, and you can now. And there's lots of opportunities through worksheets, through online classes that you can learn these skills.
Yeah. Now, do you do anything else besides atelier work?
So I primarily work in realism skills, and the artwork that I make, I'm obviously doing examples and lessons in my online classes all the time, but the artwork I make for me is still in realism. I do a lot of portraiture. I love painting flowers. Those are the subjects
Yeah.
that inspire me and bring me joy. And, for me, it's about having the choice. It's not like, oh, this art is better than this other kind of art or anything like that's not what it's
Yeah.
about. It's about being able to create what you actually want to create and to do it at a level that satisfies you.
Right. Do you ever do commissions?
All right, funny commission story. I used
Yeah.
to, but I no longer accept commissions, with a very few rare exceptions.
Right.
So when I first graduated, I'm like trying to make my living painting, and I did, and it was both really great but really stressful time in my life. I didn't really know how to run a painting business and
Yeah.
things like that. But I had painted some peonies. And I had 3 different collectors fighting over these peonies that, this one painting. And of course I wanted to
Right.
sell it 3 times. I really needed the money.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So I sold it to the first collector and said, hey, I'll paint some more peonies. So then I painted 2 more peonies. Well, guess what? More people saw those peonies and they wanted peonies, right? I
Right.
did nothing but paint peonies for 2 years of my life.
Wow.
I call it my peony purgatory period.
Right.
Because they're pot boilers, right? Like I did used to love painting flowers, but after painting like the 100th peony, I couldn't even stand the smell of peonies anymore. Like I
Yeah.
haven't painted a peony since that period of time, even though
Funny.
I still love painting flowers. I could probably paint one now, but that's when I decided that commissions weren't for me, that I needed to
Right.
paint what felt wholesome to me and, make sure that I'm arranging my art business and selling my artwork in a way that I'm not dependent on the whims of what other people want, that I can paint what I
Right.
want.
Right. Right. Which one of your favorite things you've ever painted?
Oh, that's a good question. I don't know. Who's your favorite child? Like, can you pick one?
Right.
That's kind of a cruel question to ask.
Or you can mention more, or what's one that you keep going back to fondly. You always keep taking a look at that one.
Yeah. Well, there's one drawing I did in particular that I really love, and you can see it on my Instagram at Mandy Fine Artist. And it's a figure drawing that I did, and the pose and the figure just struck me so strongly. And it was this woman, and she had her weight forward, and it kind of felt like she was flying. The way her fingers were so beautiful, and it was one of the first times that I truly captured something exactly the way I intended to.
Wow.
And it was towards the end of my atelier training, and it was just sometimes they just come out of you and you're not even thinking because it's just all working for you and it's just all going the
Yeah.
right
Yeah.
way. And so the inspiration and the execution had matched for one of the first times in my life, and it's still one of my all-time favorite drawings. And so I call it Jen in Flight. Jen was the name of the model.
Yeah.
And, just because it felt like she was about to like lift off. And I still get the most requests to buy this drawing. I get people writing to me about this drawing all the time. And I'm like, no, not for sale, not this one.
Well, you could just draw it for 2 years straight and make some money off of it.
I will not do that again.
What has been like the funniest thing you've ever had to create, or the silliest thing you've had to create? Like you're like, I can't believe I'm doing this, but I'm doing it.
I mean, the peonies were up there, especially by like, because one of the peony commissions I got was for like a 6-foot tall peony, like panel, like full of peonies, right?
Yeah. So, oh my God. So not just one peony, but a whole field of them.
It was a field of that was definitely pushing my limits, because it was towards the end of this time period, where I was like, I have got to stop painting these peonies. But I don't know, there's lots of fun things that can inspire you. Actually, a good friend of mine, that's also atelier trained, he had a real, he still paints, obviously. He has a real gift for finding these like little still life objects and then just like putting them together in a whimsical storytelling kind of way that's not super obvious and kind of subtle. And then the more you look at it, like the more you like see, what's there. So his name is John Zadrozny, and I'm like, I love the whimsy that he gets out of these like little still lifes that he does.
Nice. I was going to ask you what's one thing you will never paint again, but I already know what that is.
Yes. I mean,
I know that one.
It's been like almost 10 years now. Maybe I could paint peonies again, because they're still super fun to paint. It's just, it was a period in my life that was very strong. But there's definitely some things I love painting more than others. Like I really love trees, but I'm not that big into landscape painting. Like I'll do a portrait of a tree, but I don't really like big vistas. It's not really my jam. Yeah.
Not a Bob Ross person.
No, although I do admire greatly that Bob Ross was helping people realize that they could learn how to paint during a time that the upper high-end art world was saying, oh, if you don't understand why this white canvas is so big and important, then you're a dum-dum.
Right. He did bring art to the masses, didn't he?
He did.
That's for sure.
I have a lot of respect for that about him, even though technically speaking, from an atelier trained artist standpoint, like his skills were not super advanced, but he taught what he did know, and he made people realize that they could learn it.
Right. Well, I was going to say his audience was not advanced artists either. So he was just trying to teach. I don't know if he had any more advanced skills than what I saw on PBS, but
he did those PBS up until he died. But he brought visual joy to people, and he helped people see things in a different way. And that's what atelier training really does. Like it actually changes the way you see things. If you take, I have a free color class at the School of Atelier Arts.com. If you take that class, you will see more colors at the end of that 1 hour than you've ever seen before, just by training in color a little bit in an atelier way.
What are current artists that inspire you?
Oh, well, I mean, Juliet obviously has been a big influence in my life. Big fan of hers. Patty Watwood is a fabulous artist. There's so many good atelier trained artists working today that I'm just so in love with. Teresa Oaxaca has a very colorful, fun, but interesting, unique kind of style to what she does. And there's Michael Klein is a painter that I really like and admire. He has this painting of sticks that is just one of my favorite contemporary art paintings. And, it's a pile of sticks, but that's what skills can do, is they can take a pile of sticks and make you see it through this artist's eyes and feel beauty from a pile of sticks.
All right. Well, Mandy, this is about coming to the end of the show. And I got to say, welcome to season 2 of You're Still Doing That. As I'm kicking off my second season, at the end of each podcast, I ask people like about 6 kind of rapid fire questions where you just answer whatever comes off the top of your head. Okay. And so season 2, I've changed a few of the questions. And so I got just a few, but they're all fun and easy.
Okay, I was
All right.
I don't do good with like, even though I know a lot of trivia, I can never come up with the
No,
answer.
well, it's not trivia. It's just it's more of your how you feel about certain things.
Okay, okay.
All right, first one. What's your favorite smell?
Ooh. Ooh, I'm completely obsessed with this perfume company called Zoologist. It's a
Yeah.
Canadian perfume company, and they make perfumes called like bat and mouse, and they smell like bat caves and mice. And
Yes.
somehow it's amazing. So bat and mouse are my favorite scents right now.
Uh, my kids had like a pet mouse, and it was
Uh-huh.
smelled awful. It was the
Oh.
most awful smell ever.
Well, this
So
smells like sweet hay, like after rain.
okay,
Yeah.
that would be fine. As soon as you
Yeah.
said mouse, I was like, oh, it's like showing you a picture of peonies. I was like, no, not mice.
Yeah. Well, maybe it's because it's through a perfumer's nose,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
So it's making
yes,
it more beautiful than you could smell it on your own, right? And that's
right.
what painting does. It makes something more beautiful than you can see on your own.
What is your favorite drink?
Ooh. Um, okay. Tea lady from Salt Lake City that I had 10 years ago that I occasionally write every couple years begging her to make more of this tea. And if she would please send it to
Right.
me, even though she closed her tea shop, that's my favorite drink.
Nice. My wife loves to drink tea as well.
Yes. Well, join me
What?
on a campaign. It's called Beehive Cream and Honey. And
Gotcha.
yes, from the Beehive Tea Room that closed a number of years ago. But I've been trying to get this lady to make this tea again for years. And I still write her every couple of years begging her.
Nice. What is something? What's a food that you hate to eat? What's a food that you were like, no, I'm not going to eat that.
Um, I feel like if there's a food that you don't like, you're not training hard enough. Like,
Yeah.
so I can't think of any actual food that's intended to be food that I absolutely won't eat. There's some that I don't like as much. Like I really want to like caviar. It's supposed to be so good, but
Oh,
I'm just
no, it's
not.
not. I'm not a caviar person either.
Yeah,
Uh,
I don't know if it's like a texture thing or something, but
I
like
don't know.
I want to feel glamorous and have this caviar and
No,
be like, yes, I love caviar, but I just
I feel the
can't
same
get
way
into
about
it.
oysters too. Like,
Oh, I
no,
love
I'm like,
oysters. Oh,
really?
oh yeah, I love oysters, and
Maybe I
it's a
just had
bad
them wrong, but
addiction.
mm,
Yeah. Well,
I couldn't
especially
take
when
them.
I went to Seattle, like West Coast oysters taste different from East Coast oysters. So if you
Yeah.
think you don't like oysters and you've only tried one coast, try the other.
Yeah, who knows where the oyster came from that I ate, but it was
That
here on
you
the East Coast
recommended
that I
me.
ate it.
Okay.
uh, who is the most famous person you've ever met?
Lorena Bobbitt.
Oh my goodness, you said that really fast.
I think
Wow.
I think she's the only famous person I've ever met, but she used to own a nail
Hmm.
salon when I was in high school in DC, like outside of DC, and so yes.
Oh
But
wow,
kids
a
today
nail
don't know who
salon.
that is, so
No, no, you've got to be a certain age demographic to know who she is. But
yes.
yeah, certainly our age group knows exactly who she is. Oh my goodness. If you were to go on a dream vacation, what would it look like?
Mm. I mean, I've been lucky enough through teaching and, teaching workshops, here and abroad that, I would say Italy, but I get to teach in Italy.
Yeah.
And I've had a very privileged art career where I've been able to travel most places that I want to go, but I have not been to Japan. And that's very high on my list of places
Mm,
that I would like to
that would
go.
be fun.
Mhm.
Yeah, I agree on that too.
I just
Um,
love the aesthetic, and like the
yeah,
idea of what I'm gonna totally butcher this word, but like the wabi sabi, like the imperfect beauty in the imperfect, and I feel like
yeah,
there's so much to learn there about that.
yeah. You can see behind me, I'm a Lego fan. I've got two Japanese sets that I'm sitting
Ah,
ready to put together. I've been
excellent.
watching a show on, I think I can't remember if it might be Hulu, but it's called Shogun,
You are the
set in
second
Japan.
person to recommend that to me this week, so I must go.
So, I mean, it's a good show, but you talk about Japanese inspired setting. It is
Mm-hmm.
like, let's see, what is the year? I think they're maybe the 1600s, 1700s, about
Mm-hmm.
the time the uh, Protestants first landed in Japan and started
Oh,
coming in.
interesting. Interesting.
But very good aesthetic and
Mhm.
everything like that. Yeah, it's a
Excellent.
good one. If you could give your kid self a little bit of advice, what would you tell yourself as a kid?
Go get atelier training.
Right.
You have it. You have
Start
it.
sooner.
You just don't
Start
have.
sooner.
Well, I thought that I just wasn't capable, and that wasn't the problem. The problem, if my passion had been playing the piano, there are lots of highly competent piano teachers that could have taught me that. But my passion was something that nobody knew how to do at that time, right? Or very few people knew how to do at that time. And so I thought that I just wasn't capable. And so I would tell myself, look up the word atelier. Tell your parents you want to go to atelier. Find an atelier.
I want to draw real people.
Yeah.
What is one of your core memories? Like something you're never going to forget, even if like dementia sets in, you're still going to remember this memory.
Oh, that's good. I think the way the woods in Ohio smell. Like I grew up near the woods and I spent a lot of time there, and there's nothing that smells like that I've experienced outside. So
smells. That's a good one. The smells in Ohio. I love that one.
Yeah. Most people don't think of good smells. Like we did catch the river on fire, the Cuyahoga River, from pollution.
Yes.
Not all Ohio smells are good, people. Like it's not paradise, but the woods, if you've managed to get into a more
get into the deep forest.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Mandy, that wraps up our show for today. It was a pleasure to meet you and talk with you.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah. So if you're interested in atelier training or just art training in general, please check out Mandy's school. She can start you off at age 5, kindergarten level, and take you all the way to a master's degree.
Absolutely.
And she'll get you going. Remember, folks, find what makes you happy and get to it. There's a lot of life out there to live, so make it a good one. Be kind, be nice, be good, and everybody have a great week.